All right. Hi, guys. We are so thrilled to start tonight's Zoom chat with the Tower Garden Focus, and specifically for teachers and grant writing. I teamed up with a good buddy of mine, Tracy, here in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, to tackle this together because we know that this is a huge resource that teachers need to be able to have and that can apply and receive, dozens of grants out there. And I think it's funny because anytime somebody says the word grant, people kind of shy away from it because they feel like it's going to be like this huge over and under task and just whatever. So I talked to Tracy and I said, I think we could definitely do this together. And my brilliant mind started thinking, and creatively I came up with the idea. My cousin, who is in Michigan, Danielle, is going to share some of her tidbits. She is a philanthropist. Okay, kind of. See, you don't have to be awesome at this job, right? You can just go with the flow. And she's going to share some amazing tips with you guys. So before we get started, though, I want to introduce you to Tracy, and she's going to share an amazing tool that I want you guys to be able to utilize here in the future. So Tracy, you want to go ahead?
Hi, everyone. We're super excited about this talk tonight. We have created a Facebook page for Growing Your Minds, Teachers and Towers. So we want everybody to connect with that. If you can't find it, let us know. We'll definitely connect you. I'm attaching a link to it now so that y'all can go to the page. This will be a great tool for you to post any questions you have about your tower, any issues you're having. And also next week, Mona Hitch and I are going to do a series of YouTube videos from building your tower garden from the ground up. How to set your water timers, your light timers, how to attach your light kit, your cage, what kind of plants you can grow in the inside of your house and in the outside. So it's going to be a great tool for everyone. So with
Awesome.
that, we will get this party started. Melody, do you want to introduce your cousin?
Definitely. Well, before I do have Danielle talk, I'm going to share my experience with you guys. Another amazing resource that is going to be on that page that Tracy is talking about right now is going to be all the grant places that I know of to kind of get your feet wet. So all these places that are accepting grants, and you can write, a grant in honor of your classroom or your preschool or your after school care or your Boy Scout club or Girl Scout club. I mean, really, if you deal with kids, the possibilities are endless. If you are willing, then there is a way out there for you to be able to get one for free. And so that's what we want to be able to do for you guys. So the page that Tracy put down in the chat box, that's a location that under the files page, you'll find all of those resources we're talking tonight. So you don't have to take a bunch of notes on where to go and what places to kind of scout out. So I am a teacher, middle school science, and I just left the brick and mortar, which is like a standing school, last August after I had my daughter, Nora Kate, or actually right before I had Nora Kate. And the year prior to that, I actually won 2 grants. The first grant I actually got without even knowing. There was money in my account when I started school, and they just said, there's $500 in the account, and it's from Sam's Club / Walmart. And I said, oh, I won that grant? Okay, that's awesome. So I applied that very quickly and bought my tower and got that set up in the classroom. And I had 8th grade students, and let me just tell you, it was amazing. The ability for the kids to link outside real, relevant, hands-on, anything and everything you want to do, from like a 4-year-old all the way up to like college age. The sky is the limit. So we got the tower going, and we noticed that growing inside was just not possible because where we had a tinted window, and there was no plugs outside that were working, so I couldn't plug my tower in. So I needed to write another grant, and the Chamber of Commerce in my city had a grant going on that I wrote to, and I said, this is what I need. I wanted to buy an extension kit. I wanted to buy lights. I wanted to buy my tomato cage. And so they funded the entire thing without any questions asked. So we got started right after fall break. The kids left for Christmas, came back to like a huge garden growing. I was so ecstatic about their excitement that I got the news channel involved. And I started telling them about what was going on in my classroom, because I wanted people to know that there's this amazing technology resource and tool that they could use in their classroom. And so, you know, my kids started pairing up and thinking about the fact that, you know, as 8th graders, what they were consuming was stuff that had been picked way before, and I didn't even put it in their minds. They just started like thinking about it. They said, so if this is living and we pick this, then really it's still like 100% living, whereas the stuff that we had in the store, I mean, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, Heather Wonke taught us that, you know, an apple could be almost a year old. You know, like that is mind blowing for these kids to know and understand the connections and the relationships. I took it to a lot of different levels. We did acids and bases. We did chemical composition. We talked about pollination. So, you know, it's a lot of different things that you could do. And the experience was just out of this world. It was really cool. I got the privilege last year to go into a 3rd grade classroom where I partnered up with a teacher there. I came in every Friday for a couple of weeks just to get them started, introduce some key vocabulary words to them, and they were just ecstatic. I mean, they were so happy. And at the end, I brought in produce from Kroger's, and we did the same thing. They had fresh picked produce from the tower. I gave them the lettuce, romaine lettuce that was organic from Kroger's. We found out that it was from California. We estimated that it'd been there for probably about 30 days, since we thought it took 3 days to maybe get here, plus the farmer picked it. Who knows if the farmer put it right into the package? You know, just they were coming up with all these ideas. And so just them looking at the 2 leaves, you could just see all these light bulbs clicking in their brains like, oh my gosh. I mean, look at the color. The color is so rich. They didn't know the word chlorophyll, but there was so much chlorophyll in the one that was just picked versus the one that had been already picked a long time ago. And they were talking about the amount of nutrients that they had lost, and they were drawing data tables. And I mean, the principal was so ecstatic. So it is something that is foundational and could be used for a plethora of things. I would love a tower to be in every single school, not only because of our need for it in the classroom, but our need for it in a health manner. Our kids are so removed from food that they don't even know where it comes from. And, you know, our responsibility as educators is to educate them on that, you know, and what an amazing way to be able to do this with such a cool tool. So without, you know, that said, or with that said, I guess I should say, I'm going to introduce to you my cousin Danielle. She's a junior at the University of Michigan, and she studies political science. She actually began her work in this grant making and philanthropy section in 2010 as a treasurer of Battle Creek Community Foundation Youth Alliance Committee. She served there for 3 years, and she co-chaired of the Michigan Community Foundation Youth Project Committee. She's a Youth Philanthropy Connect Program Fellow, an intern at this Council of Michigan Foundation, and a past intern at the National Center of Family Philanthropy. So Danielle works primarily with youth grant making across the country and has contributed to numerous publications around this topic. So let me tell you, when I say that I bring the big guns, like, I am so blessed to have her as my cousin, because I could just be like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Can you come on and chit chat to me? Because like she like is so busy, right? So I'm so glad that you can be here, Danielle. And I am just so excited to learn your wisdom of what we can do to help this make it even easier for teachers to be able to tackle this project. So go ahead, Danielle.
Yeah, absolutely. So the word that Melody keeps trying to say is philanthropy. And so really it translates to like the love of humankind. So that's usually like what I hear when we're talking about grant making is like, how are the people that are granting these funds like trying to benefit their communities and the people around them. So that's primarily what I've been working with. And as Melody kind of said, so I've been writing and reviewing grants since I was pretty young, since I was in high school. So it's been really cool to see both sides of the table. So I've been in your shoes where I've been writing grants to help like my high school. But at the same time, I was on a board of trustees where I was the one that's reviewing grants and was distributing that money. So I really had like some interesting perspectives in that and found that it was something I really, really enjoyed doing. So I've been working with that for the past few years. Most of what I've been doing is trying to spread that youth philanthropy idea, is bringing young people onto boards so that they're not just the ones that are receiving the help from grants, but they're the ones that are actually making those decisions and informing the way that like funders and grant makers distribute that money. But a really big part of what I do is I go into schools and help train teachers on how to write grants. So I've been doing that for the past few years. Those are usually multi-day events, so I've really been trying to like condense what I do during those trainings to fit this time span. But I hope that some of the ideas and best practices that I've been sharing for the past couple of years are helpful for you guys. And I've tried to use the example of the garden tower as much as I possibly can, but I also want this to be important for you all to like think about as you're applying for future grants, and just some general ideas about like how to go about that. So I know that everybody has like different experience levels. So I think that we should probably start with like some basic things about like how to begin applying for grants. And it really isn't scary. Like everyone starts from really the same like area. And the thing to remember too is that all of the people that are funding these projects, they have grantees in mind. So they understand that there are teachers and there are nonprofits that don't have a ton of experience in doing these things. They don't have professional grant making like writers for them. So it's really not scary when you get started. It's just something that you need to like put a lot of time into. So I guess we can like go through some best practices really quick. I think one of the most important things to remember is that these proposals should be easy to read because most likely funders get a lot of proposals that they're reading through. So it's important that they are like clear, that they make a lot of sense. And you guys are all teachers, so you know very well how important proofreading and editing is when you're writing these grants. Because so many times I've seen proposals, many grants especially, that have a lot of spelling mistakes and errors, especially if you're including a budget in your proposal. If those things don't really match up, or if there's some conflicting information there, I've seen those get put to the bottom of the pile so many times just for silly mistakes. And that's really like not something that everyone can control, but it's definitely like a small thing that you can do to make sure that your grants are the best that they can be. So I like to start with the grant making matrix, which I found is really helpful, especially when you're talking to teachers and you have like sort of those ideas to go off of. So usually in the grant making world, there's really like 4 quadrants that you can fall into. There's the good idea, there's the good proposal, there's the bad idea, and there's the bad proposal. You want to fall in the good proposal, good idea realm, where you have a fantastic idea for this project, and it's something that can be done really well. The person that's reading your proposal is going to think it's a great idea. But you also want the actual writing to be good. You want it to be clear and concise, and you can explain exactly what you're going to be using the funds for in a really, really great way. But I think that we oftentimes like see a lot of like those in between, where you have a great idea, but it doesn't always come across in the proposal very well for whatever reason. It could be like the language isn't clear, or you don't explain the project quite as well, or if there's a budget, that those things just don't necessarily make sense. And then you have the other quadrant where you have a really great proposal that's written well, everything makes sense, but the idea isn't quite as innovative, or it might not really like hold up to the other applicants. So there's really like those three pitfalls. And I don't think that any of you will fall into the fourth quadrant, which is bad idea, bad proposal, because you all have fantastic ideas, and I can't see any reason why that would happen. So that's really important, is making sure that not only is your idea great, but your proposal is great as well. Let's see. I think I lost you guys. Oh, sorry, it's back. Everyone's face just kind of disappeared for a second. So I think that another thing that's important to talk about is like the two most important things that grant makers are looking for in proposals, and that's innovation and impact, is what I've seen like throughout the sector, throughout the country, especially with mini grants and teachers, when so many people are applying to them. So how is the way that you're using this garden tower innovative, and how is it different from the other applicants? In what ways can you stand out to the funders that are going to be looking at this? So this could come in like a myriad of ways, but it's all in how you message it in the proposal. So make this sound as exciting and different as you possibly can, because that's how you get put to the top of the pile in all of these applications. And then impact, there's a lot of ways that you can make this stand out in your proposals. So it's really like giving as much information as you possibly can. So companies and foundations and families and communities, we all have this money to give back and resources that they want to grant out, but they really want to make sure that they get the most bang for their buck. So that's like a way that you want to see like through their perspective, and sort of an investment in this project or in a classroom. So you want to make sure that this is posed as sort of a worthwhile investment for them. So what effect is the garden tower going to have on your students? And why would it matter to them? And more importantly, why does having this tool matter to you? I think that there's like a lot of ways that you can make this stand out. So explaining how many students are going to be impacted is an absolute must. Might help to include the demographics of your students, what they'll learn from the garden. Like Melody was talking about how important it is that we learn where our food comes from. And all of these really important aspects to it that should really shine through in the actual proposal. And another thing that's important too is thinking about if your students have access to this tool outside of the classroom. I know like one time I reviewed a grant proposal to, I think it was to send students to like a farm and garden center. So when we were reviewing these proposals, obviously there was like an inner city school and then an urban school that applied, and it just was natural that we were like more inclined to give the grant to those that had never had that opportunity to go to something like that before. So thinking about that and how you pose that in the actual proposal is definitely important. And then like as you're wrapping up, like sort of writing out all of the steps of this is what's going to happen as a result of having the garden tower or any future project that you apply to a grant for. So how are your students going to carry what they've learned for the next few months or the next few years, and really why does it matter and why is this important? So those are all really, really great things that you should include when you're writing the actual grant. So I think that like one final thing that I might challenge you guys to do as you're going through this process, and this is me being like very lofty and hoping that you all would take advantage of this, is I've seen time and time again that people who include their students in the process typically have a lot better chance of actually receiving the grant. And it really depends on like how young your students are, but this could come in a variety of formats, but just engaging them in the process and talking to them about it. And this could be like a really great teachable moment for them as well to learn about generosity and grants and how those things contribute to the school atmosphere. So I think that there's like a really big push right now, especially in like corporate philanthropy, is like getting young people involved in the process of writing grants. So this could look like quotes from your students like within the proposal about how excited they are to use the garden tower, or like things that they've thought of that they want to do with it. Or if you want to be really crazy, you could have brainstorm sessions with your students to figure out like how to actually write the proposal and what sort of stuff to include in it. And that sort of stuff is really, really revolutionary within this sector, and would make you stand out so much when you actually submit it to these funders. So yeah, those are really like the biggest best practices that I have noticed within writing grants. And I wish that we had more time together so I could share all of my like other things with you. But if you guys have any questions, I haven't really been like checking the chat box a lot. But like feel free to ask me anything. Is that okay? Cool.
Hey, Dan.
Okay, I have a question.
Oh, go Blue. Yay. Yeah.
You were talking about including the kids in proposals. Is it standard to ever, or not standard, but is it ever a good idea to include pictures, or is it usually all written?
I would say it's usually all written in the proposal, and it really depends on the company. And usually they have like a, if they say like include pictures, then that's usually the only time. But if you do receive the grant, I would highly encourage you to not only send letters of thank you, but also include pictures of you using the Garden Tower. Because if you ever want to apply to grants again, that's how you get remembered when you go back and send those applications the second time.
Oh, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I am brand new at this idea. We just started at a new school and they don't have a garden. And our old school did, and my kids loved it. But I've never done this. I just saw it and thought I could write a grant and get my kids a tower garden. I'm going to try this and here or whatever. Anyway, but where do you, is there an example of a grant that's been written before? Are there templates that you could follow or grants that I could read? Just really starting from absolute zero.
Oh, absolutely. So I think that my suggestion for everyone is there are regional grant makers in your area. Everyone has one. There are community foundations, private foundations all across the country. So I would really just research what the closest foundation is in your area. And they typically have not only grant applications, but they might even have like examples of finished ones. And I can put my email too in this group chat if you want to send me a direct email. I have a ton of examples of grants that I've written before and like some that I've used in trainings. And those have youth involvement involved like in the process too. So if you want to see a good example of like how youth are like can contribute to proposals like this, I can send you that as well.
And another idea, Danielle, would be maybe just to send it a PDF and we can plug it in on the files page of that Facebook so that you're not being bombarded with 47 plus some.
Yep, I can definitely do that.
But I wanted to just jump on real quick and say a couple things. A couple things that she said that really stood out that are key for us in this Tower Garden is that it's really for us, it's a one-time investment because the tower, once it's bought for, is going to impact thousands of kids because an average tower lasts about 20 years. Is that correct, Mona? If I'm not mistaken, I think it's about 20 years is what the life of it is, right? Obviously, you may have to get a pump here and then. It doesn't include your tower tonic, but I mean, the big bulk expense is all about that. And so that in itself is just huge. I mean, a teacher starting out brand new retires in 20 years, her entire 20 years she uses this tower, you know, and it's just really cool to be able to see that. And then Leah, you said something about gardening. I gardened when I was in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the only problem with it is I did it right after TCAPS, which was like, yes, like totally killed time, got my kids out in the sun, they enjoyed the dirt, they were planting things, but as soon as school was out, nobody came to pick any of that stuff. And so we came back and it was just like this, I mean, I didn't stay around. I was like, vacay, you know, like, and no one stood around to help out. And so it almost was like a waste. And so here we have something that from day one, it's growing. You pick it and harvest it, reset it in October for fall break. They come back and there it is again. Reset it after Christmas. There it is again until spring break. I mean, these kids could literally eat off this tower, you know, for the entire year, you know, and at the end of the year, have a salad party with the kids, with their parents, or, you know, they want to come and have a teacher's parent conference. Be like, here, why don't you grab yourself some lettuce on the way home to make yourself a salad tonight? I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it was just super cool. And I love, Danielle, your thing about including quotes from the kids. Teach them generosity. I mean, that is just fabulous, and I love that you said that. So thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Where do you find the grants to apply for? Like, you helped with the ideas about how to write them, but how do you find the actual grants?
So, Jerome, on our Facebook page, I'm going to post a link under the files that will have all of them. One of the ones you can start with is Sam's Club. There's another one that's Annie's. Another one is Home Depot. I mean, all of them have local community grants that they do for teachers. So those are just some small places that you can start with. So hopefully that helps. Anybody else?
Melody, we're going to be posting this video in the files on our Facebook page, right? Has anybody else got any questions?
This was phenomenal. Thank you so much. I can't wait to get the recording to share it with my teacher friends.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. This has been an awesome event for all the teachers. So we're hoping that you can share it and have fun with it.
Well, I want to end tonight, if you don't mind, and sharing a video with you guys. Hopefully Nora Kate will keep quiet so we can do this successfully. So this is going to be our Tower Garden page. So you can go there and join. We posted it down in the chat box for you guys. But I want to end with Stephen Ritz, who's a teacher in the Bronx, who actually started the towers. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this.
We can't hear the audio, Melody.
What, baby?
Try going within the video and clicking on that audio.
Okay, hold on. Is it not working? Can you hear anything?
Nope.
No? Okay. Okay, well, this is on the page, and I encourage you to watch it because it's just, it's phenomenal, and it just gives you it gives you kind of an outlook as to, you know, what this can do, what this can turn into. This is not just a tower that you could use for your classroom, but this can become like a revolutionary, you know, just project that, you know, student council gets involved in grant writing, you know, have the kids write letters to the local, you know, businesses around saying how they would really love to have a Tower Garden in their classroom. You know, the sky's the limit. So I encourage you to look at that and to look at some of those resources. And, you know, it's just super exciting to be able to alongside you guys as educators and try to get as many of these in the classroom as we can. So with that, we want to thank you all for joining us, especially Danielle. Thank you for your time coming out and, you know, just really loving on us and pouring into us as newbies at this. And I will get that out to you guys as far as samples of how to write those. And use us as examples or questions that you may have. And we would love to be able to help you guys all over the country. So